What's up, ghouls? Welcome to Cross Gardening. Today we got an exciting topic that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the world of soil. We're going to dive into it. We're going to understand how soil is structured and what you can do to improve your soil and make really an environment that's going to be conducive for you to grow your food. One thing that we often forget is that your plants, they need some really good soil and some life in the soil for it to be able to thrive. Don't believe in what they say. Look, those big agro businesses, when they say add fertilizers, get some chemicals in your soil, this is crazy. Just don't do that, right? So what we're going to be talking about today is what you can do to really go and create a soil or improve your soil so that you can bring and grow your favorite vegetables, your favorite plants, your favorite fruits in your garden without adding any chemicals. So let's go dive into the science of soil. Let's go. Okay, so let's first start looking at what your soil is composed of. Your soil is composed at about 25% of water, 25% of air, and then you got probably 5% of organic matter and 5% of living organism like your worms, your bacteria, your fungus, etc. And then you got 40% of dirt, right? Soil and dirt is completely different. Dirt is basically inert soil. It's soil that is completely dead of life, dead of organic matter. There's nothing in there except for the dirt. And the dirt is composed of material. And in this video, we're going to be focusing specifically on the dirt and what makes some good dirt, and then adding all those other things that are missing in the dirt to really create some good soil for your plants to thrive in. Now, when we talk about dirt, we're talking about the three amigos. We're talking about sand, silt, and clay. The sand is like your free-spirited particles. They don't hold any water. Water just go flow through it. Those are your coarse particles inside the soil, the bigger pieces that you have in the dirt. And then you got your silt. Your silt is much smaller, the medium-sized particles compared to your sand particles. They do hold a little bit of water. They do hold a little bit of nutrients as well. And then you got your clay. And the clay is the clingy material that you got in your dirt, right? They're sticky. They don't want to let the water go through. They keep the nutrients in as well. We'll talk a little bit about the holding capacity of water and nutrients in those three different particles. But those are the three amigos that make up your dirt. Okay, let's go and look at the various different holding capacity that they have now. Looking at the screen right now, you would be able to see that from a sand perspective, there's some really good infiltration of water into it, right? The water flows through it very, very fast. Now, the issue with that is that there's not a lot of water available to the plants because the water just flows through without any constraint through the sand. And due to this, the nutrient supply capacity is low as well with sand because the nutrients leach through the soil, given that the water, as it flows through, will take the nutrients with it and flow outside of it. Okay. From a silt perspective, water infiltration is okay. It's medium, right? It's not too fast. It's not too slow. It's pretty good. From a water availability, it's high to medium, so it's pretty good for your plants. Now, from a nutrient supply capacity, is medium as well. And then when we look at clay, water infiltration is slow. It's really hard for water to go and get into clay. And because of that, it's really hard for it to get out as well, by the way. So that's how you end up with very soggy soil and boggy area, right? So all this clay just holds the water together, and holding this water together makes the water less available compared to a silt particle, right? And from a nutrient supply capacity, because the water stays in the clay very readily, then the supply of nutrients don't leach outside of the soil. It stays in the soil. Hence why we got a high supply capacity of nutrient for the plants in a clay soil. Okay, so now that we know a lot about soil and dirt and the distinction between those two, we're ready to go and do our test. And where you want to do the test, obviously, you want to do it where you're going to be growing your plants. There's no point of me doing this test in the front yard if I'm going to plant in the backyard. Okay, so you want to take some of that topsoil. The very first test is very easy. You take some of that topsoil, try to remove as much roots as possible from it. and then just form a ball with it. Right? Just mold the ball together in your hand and just have a look. If it's all this shape, then you know that you either have a clay soil or a silt soil, right? You don't have a big sandy soil here. If you had a sandy soil, then this would break straight away. It would not hold its shape. Now, if you want to know if it's silty or clay soil, all you need is poke it a little bit. And if it crumbles when you poke it, then you got a silt soil. If it doesn't crumble easily when you poke it, then you know you got a clay soil. Okay, and we'll be looking at a little bit more test afterwards. We're going to be doing the jar test later on to really see the percentage of sand versus silt versus clay in your soil. But before we go to that, there's another test that is very easy for you to do, which is the smell test. Okay, so you just want to take your bowl, just crush it a little bit and give it a good smell. And if it is foul, the odor is foul or sour, then you know you either got a problem with over fertilization in your soil, or you know that you got a really a soil that doesn't drain really well, right? And I know that my soil here is very compacted. When I dug this soil, it was really hard to dug, so I know this is compacted, right? So I know that because it's compacted, there's not a lot of water in there, there's not a lot of air in there for water to percolate through. So I know this is compacted. I know I got waterlogged here, and the water just go and drain all the way down there. If you observe a little bit of your property, you can see where all the pool of water goes through. For me, it's down there over there. It goes and pulls all the water when there's a big rain event here. So I know that all the water just flows on top of my soil, go down there rather than actually percolating inside the soil. And that tells me as well that it is compacted. So I dug up this hole here, and then the next day it rained really bad. So usually what you would need to do, you would need to pour some water one time and then let it filter through the soil, and then pour the water a second time to be able to test your soil for drainage. But here, because we had some really good downpour rain in the last couple of days, I don't need to do the first time. All I need to do is just fill that up once. And we're basically going to look at how quickly does the water drain through. All right, look at that. It's been 15 minutes now, and the water hasn't dropped down much at all. It dropped about 1 inch only. So I guess you can guess here, there's not a really good drainage here in my soil. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. But we'll talk about all the tips and tricks that you can use to be able to start remediate any issues that you find in your soil. But again, this is very contextual, right? If I had some plants that I wanted to plant here that really like these boggy areas, this is good, right? You don't want to do anything to change that. But if you have some plants that you want to plant in here that don't like having their feet wet, this is not great at all, because you're going to end up with root rot, and that's going to kill your plant over time. So right now, for me, I'm going to grow some plants here that's like my trees, my fruiting trees. Most of them, they don't like having their feet wet. So I'm going to have to do something to change that, but I'll talk about that after. But now, let's get into our pH test. So the way that you want to do your pH test, you want to get some soil from about 10 to 15 centimeters down. And the way I'm going to do that is, I know that the soil that I got here, I dug that up, it was down there. So I'm just going to use that soil. And you really don't need much of that soil. You probably just need like a half a teaspoon to be able to do the test. So I'm just going to get that out from my little, bottom bottle kind of thing here that I cut out. And let's go inside and do this pH test. And I explain a little bit why the pH test is really important before you start planting anything into your soil, because that's really going to be the do or break kind of situation when you're planting your plants, right? If they're not doing well, maybe the pH is not right for them. So let's talk about that. Okay, so for our pH test, we're going to use this really cheap little soil test kit that I got out of Bunnings. You can get that at your hardware shop. You can get that at your garden centers, your nurseries. Very easy to get, right? And the way that it works is, all you're going to do, you got this testing plate here, and I'm just going to drop some soil on it. Okay, just in the middle here. Doesn't really matter, right? And then you got this little indicator liquid here, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be just dropping a few drops, not too much. So here, 1, 2, 3, all right. And now you got that little stick that you get with the kit that allows you to mix it up together. Just mix it up, 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 mix it up. You may need to add more if it's not enough. It's really hard to do that with one hand, by the way. Didn't think about that too much, did I? Anyway, so here we go. I'll mix it up, mix it up, mix it up until it becomes a little bit of a thick paste, right? And then all you got to do, look, it's good enough. That's fine. It'll do the job. All you got to do is you get that powder that comes with the kit, and you basically just put a bit of powder on there. Here we go. And you wait for that powder to change color. Okay, you have it. Now we got that color here. All you got to do, you got to match the color that you got here with one of the colors that you got on this gradient here. Okay, and this one matches to number 5. So I know that the pH in here is pH 5. So I know that in my backyard over there, I got a quite acidic soil. Now, acidic soil is great to grow your blueberries. There's a few species that like that, but most of the species, and if you wanted to grow some vegetable, your annuals, etc., etc., most of them will need a neutral kind of soil, which is really between 6.5 and 7.5. So if it's 5 here, you're gonna have to do something to change that pH, otherwise your plants are not gonna thrive, right? And if you were to grow some blueberries and you got like a pH of 8 here, which is alkalinity, right? So it's an alkaline soil. This is also called a sweet soil, right? Your blueberries are not gonna like it. Okay, so you really want to go and change that pH into a pH that the blueberry is going to be liking it, and the blueberry likes a quite acidic soil. Okay, so for the jar test, it's going to be really simple. So you just fill the jar with some of your topsoil, you add some water, and you give it a really good shake. Once you finish shaking that, you just want to let that sit for a few days. And what you're going to be seeing is that all the various particles in your soil are going to start setting down at the bottom of this jar, right? So you're going to first have that sand layer, because those are the coarse particles, so they're a lot heavier, a lot denser. So it's going to be the first one falling off, and then the next layer is going to be the silt layer, and the final layer is going to be your clay layer. It's been a couple of days now, and here I got my jar ready for us to measure. So you're going to need the ruler to be able to do this test. Here you can see there's water here, then down here we got that layer of clay, then we got the silt layer, and down here is the sand layer. And all we need to do is measure all of that and work out what is the percentage of it. Now you see there's still some particles here in the water. Those are mostly the organic material like my roots and whatnot. This is not what we're here to measure. We're here to measure the structure of the soil versus those 3 different components, right? Sand, silt, and clay. So let's go and measure that. We need a ruler for that. So here's my ruler here, and you just look and calculate. So here we got all up, we got 7 of what, it really doesn't matter. We got about 16% of it being clay. We got here between these 2 layers here, so from here to here, this is our silt layer. This is about let's have a look here. This is about 30%, and then we got probably 50 to 55% of sand. And really you want that sand material to be around the 40% mark to have a loam soil. So now you know all this information. You're probably like, oh, thanks, Corel. So now I know all of these problems for me to be able to grow my plants in this soil. What can I do? Well, this is the round for you to know what you can do to be able to resolve some of those issues in your soil. Now, first of all, let's look at pH, right? So if your pH is too high, there's things that you can do to reduce it. You can use coffee grounds, you can use pine needles in your soil to be able to reduce that pH, or you can also use sulfur, right? Soil sulfur, which is a natural resource, you can add to your soil, and that's going to reduce the pH. Now, you do want to monitor the pH over time because you don't want to overdo it, right? Just moving by one grading of pH, let's say from 6 to 7, for example, this is not like just moving by one metric. It's actually times 10 more alkaline. Okay, so you really want to be careful and monitor how your soil is changing, because you might changing it a bit too much, or maybe not enough, or maybe it's not going the right way for you, right? Now, if your pH is too low and you want to bring that up to the neutral level, or maybe you want to make it really sweet, very alkaline, what you can do is you can use lime, which is dolomite lime, that you can add it to your soil to be able to put that up. Now, another way, if you really want to have a neutral soil, compost is the best thing for your soil. Compost, usually when it's finished, is neutral, so adding that to your soil will bring the pH back up to the neutral level. Okay, now what do you do if you got sandy soil? Well, interestingly enough, compost would really help with that, right? So compost is going to add some really good organic material, and so that you can start having building some soil aggregate into your soil, and have those bacteria and all those worms and that life coming into your soil and starting to move the nutrients, move the minerals around under your feet. And if you got some very clay soil, one thing that you can do is you can actually get some gypsum to be able to start to break that up, right? Like very compacted, very clay. You can use some gypsum, and that's going to start breaking up the soil. But another thing that you can do as well is adding some compost as well. Okay, so adding some organic matter, again, that's going to bring all that biology into your soil. And you know, like I said before, those worms, they're going to do the work for you. They're going to till your soil, they're going to break the soil into smaller particles, create some tunnels so that there's some air that's going to be able to flow in here, water is going to be able to flow in here, and really start to get that soil to rejuvenate and thrive for your plants. This is it about this video. I hope you learned one thing or two about the soil and what you can do to be able to amend your soil so that you can grow your favorite vegetable and favorite trees in your backyard. Now, if you did learn something, just hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more videos like that, subscribe to this channel. And this is really going to support me to bring those videos and this knowledge and this kind of content right for you. Okay? Now, if you want to contribute to this movement of growing food in our backyard, just share this video and share this channel with your family and your friends. This is a difference you can make today for us to be able to create a more sustainable future, and so that we can start regenerating the life in our backyard. And like I like to say all the time, it's never been a better time to be a gardener. So join our community and let's make a difference with the future of our kids today.